Well, hello, everybody. As you've noticed, I've not released a podcast in a pretty damn long time for actually the entirety of 2022 thus far. And that is because I have been busy working on the Magick 101 course. It's been a ton of work, but it's been an amazing journey. It's probably one of the most rewarding projects I've ever participated in. And I really think that the course is absolutely incredible. It's been a really amazing opportunity to get to speak with and learn from some of my biggest inspirations in the field of magic and occultism, and to really level up my own practice by being both a facilitator and a student within this course. And so I wanted to give you a little gift. I wanted to release for you the conversation that I shared with the great Lon Milo Duquette. I think it was a really fantastic conversation and lecture, and Lon really shined through as this gem of wisdom, a true wizard, a great inspiration, a great role model for someone that I would want to be like when I get a bit older. And so I really hope that you're going to enjoy this conversation that I shared last week with Lon Milo Duquette, now that the course is wrapping up and coming to a close. And it's bittersweet because it's been a really awesome journey, but I'm really looking forward to what the future holds, and it seems to be getting a little bit better every single day. So I hope that you get as much enjoyment out of this conversation as I did with Lon Milo Duquette. Also, the Magick 101 course is now available as a pre-recorded self-paced course. It was initially designed to be a 12-week journey, but it's something that you can undertake over 12 months or over however much time you need. We all have different amounts of time that we can devote to something like this, but I think it's an incredible investment, and that magic is the meta skill that can really help you in all of the other areas of your life. And if you're interested in finding out more information about the course and maybe signing up for it, you can go to magick101course.com. And I am planning on doing once a month live podcasts with very special guests in the same vein as the live classes that I held for the Magick 101 course. And so if you are to sign up for the course, you'll be able to participate in those live classes, those live podcasts, and I think it's going to be super cool, and I'm really excited about it, and I hope you'll decide to join us. We exist in a time of great crisis and uncertainty. Our generation faces challenges that are very great and very severe. In times of crisis and difficulty, people in the past often turned to magicians, sorcerers, mystics, and shamans, the wise people of their tribe or culture that possessed specialized knowledge that could help them navigate the difficulties and uncertainties of their lives. Mental causation, neurolinguistic programming, semiotics, autosuggestion, self-hypnosis, ceremonial magic, and chaos magic. These are just some of the names for the tools and techniques geared to understanding and utilizing the powers of your own psyche to radically impact and to be able to create the circumstances in your life that you desire. We all have dreams in our lives, things that we want to accomplish, and sometimes the odds of accomplishing these things can make these dreams and visions feel virtually impossible. But what if I told you that you have everything that you need already to be able to accomplish these tasks and to live the life of your dreams, and that it all exists within your mind and psyche? But what if I also told you that the reason why these dreams seem so impossibly challenging is because there are programs and implicit beliefs within your subconscious mind that are sabotaging you and stopping you from reaching your full potential? Magic is the study of the methods to directly impact our psyches so that the experiences that we attract and are magnetized towards are in alignment with our true desires. Let me tell you a bit about my own story around magic. I first encountered the practice of ceremonial magic when I was in high school, when I began to read some of the writings of the infamous occultist Aleister Crowley. Eventually, I mostly discarded magic as a path and tradition in favor of Buddhism and other similar Eastern-oriented traditions and more non-dual approaches to life. My interest and passion in magic was revived in 2020, and I began studying and practicing everything that I could get my hands on, reading books from the best authors on the subject, taking dozens of online courses, working with private personal mentors and trainers, as well as even joining an occult organization that has trained the system of magic for almost 100 years. At the beginning of the year 2020, I had $0 in my bank account. I had over $10,000 worth of debt, and there was even a 3-day period in which I couldn't afford to pay for my electricity, and so I lived in my house with no lights and no electricity and barely ate any food during this time. And I had been dumped by my girlfriend that I was in love with, and my prospects for my love life and social life weren't really looking very good. I was in a rut. By the end of the year 2020, I had amassed a savings of more than $40,000 and held some very valuable assets. I had $0 worth of debt. I know that for many people this isn't a large amount of money, but it was for me at the time. I also met and established a committed relationship with a wonderful and beautiful girlfriend who I'm still with today. There are many factors that led to this success, but I believe that a very large part of that was the study and practice of magic. Although it might be associated with things like Harry Potter and fantasy stories, the hundreds-of-year-old philosophy and practice of magic asserts that there are subtle hidden forces that govern our world, and that if you understand how to tap into and align with these forces and direct them, you can use these subtle occult forces to achieve anything that you desire, whether that desire is something material, like a certain amount of money, or to get a certain job, or if that is something more spiritual, less tangible, like enlightenment or the quest for higher awareness. My practice and study of magic has completely changed my life by allowing me to have greater power and agency, to be able to envision and create the life I truly want for myself. And so, therefore, I wanted to create this Magic 101 course to give you all of the techniques and practices that you would ever need to be a fully practicing magician and to be able to create the life for yourself and the circumstances that you truly desire. I have taken many, many online courses about magic, and this is hands down the most robust and most comprehensive course on the fundamentals of practical magic that exists. In addition to my own instruction, in which there are more than 200 lesson modules, as well as more than 36 hours of recorded lectures, there are also lectures from some of the world's leading experts in the field of magic and occultism, including but not limited to PEN Award-winning author Mitch Horowitz, Lon Milo Duquette, Gabriela Herstick, and Pam Grossman, as well as many other exceptional teachers who are deeply experienced practitioners and leading authors and teachers on the subject. The Magic 101 guest teachers have appeared on a wide array of different media outlets, including Gaia TV, NPR, the Duncan Trussell Family Hour podcast, the Philosophical Research Center, and in many other prominent places. The guest teachers for this course are true masters of the art and science of magic, and it is an exceptional honor to learn from them. And so I hope that you will care to join me on this journey, and it's a real privilege and an honor to be presenting this information to you. The course is available now for only $333, even though there is enough value in this course to warrant a cost of many thousands of dollars. But I wanted to make this information affordable because I believe that just as magic changed my life and continues to help support me to grow and develop the life that I really want to live and to become the person that I want to be, that there are many people out there that need help and whose lives can be profoundly enriched and profoundly transformed by the information presented in this course. There are also many affordable payment plans offered for those who need financial support. People who sign up for the course will also have access to a lively private community group and monthly live podcasts with esoteric teachers in which you can ask questions to experts on the subject of practical magic. My name is Jake Cobran, and I have been studying spiritual traditions and practices for more than 10 years, not only in the vein of Western magic and esotericism, but also Eastern Buddhism, shamanism, and many other paths. I'm also a world-renowned visionary artist, and I live in Bali. I hope you will join me in this journey into magic, empowerment, and fulfillment. Visit the Magick 101 website for more information and sign up today. Thank you.
And now I will hand over the mic to our moderator, Hyperspace Sky, to introduce our very special guest this week.
Yes, I'm honored and so grateful to be a part of tonight. And our special guest is Lon Milo Duquette. Lon is the author of a score of critically acclaimed books translated in 12 different languages on magic and the occult. Lon is one of the most respected and entertaining writers and lecturers in the field of the Western mystery traditions. He is also a gifted singer-songwriter and recording artist whose musical career has spanned over 50 years. He is an internationally recognized authority on tarot and Western ceremonial magic. Since 1975, he has served as a national and international governing officer of the OTO, the Order Templi Orientis, and since 1996 has been the Order's United States Deputy National Grand Master. He lives in Sacramento, California with Constance, his wife of 53 years. Welcome, Lon. We are so happy that you are with us tonight.
Well, thank you very much. Can you hear me? I don't know if I'm unmuted.
Yeah, we can hear you just loud and clear,
We
Lon.
can hear you.
Sky, you might have to spotlight his video, though.
I just turned it on. I don't know.
There we go.
Okay, there we go.
Everybody will probably be happier if you don't have to look at me for the whole thing. But thank you guys very much for inviting me, and welcome to my living room.
Yeah, I hope everybody banished today because we've evoked a heavy hitter. Lon, it's super awesome for you to be here. I'm really excited for you to be here because personally I've been reading your books for years, and you've definitely made an impact on my journey personally as a magician. And it was cool last night learning a little bit more about your back history, and I even listened to a bit of the record that you put out in the 1970s or 60s, and I really liked it.
1970. Yeah. Well, good. It's
Yeah,
held well, hasn't it?
I love like psychedelic pop music, and there's something about that vibe that it captures that I really enjoy.
Yeah, we sort of called it acid cowboy.
Great. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was wondering if you could start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you began your journey as a magician, and how did you make that transition from psychedelic cowboy rock star to polemic master magician?
Well, I haven't made the transition yet, as far as I know. What can I say? I've always been sort of attention deficit disordered class clown kind of misfit growing up, and I was pulled from sunny Southern California when I was 7 years old in 1955, and replanted in Nebraska, of all places, where I really felt like a fish out of water. And so I was always sort of a rebellious kind of character, but in a good-humored way, I guess. But I don't know if you'd say that I was born that way or what. But I was fortunate, or anyway, I guess we could say I was fortunate to have a hip disorder, a bone disorder in my hip that was discovered when I was about 3 years old, or a little bit younger. Just as I was starting to walk around the neighborhood and get out and about. And the only way to treat it, the only treatment at the time was to just put me completely off my feet and hope that it goes away. Otherwise, I was grinding my hip socket to powder. And so I was put back in the crib about the same time as most kids get out of the crib. And I didn't sleep through the night. I was awake about every other half hour and asleep every other half hour, 24 hours a day. So I would blissfully, I enjoyed it. I would blissfully go in and out of consciousness 24 hours a day. And my dream consciousness blended in quite nicely with my waking consciousness. And because I wasn't interacting with people, I wasn't developing the language skills that researchers know. When the language skills start to develop, your brain changes a little, and you lose the pre-linguistic visions and things that infants have. And I was sort of allowed to crystallize what babies think. And that the baby memories, pre-linguistic baby memories, got through to the part of my brain that I could remember them. Am I making any sense here? It's hard to explain.
Sure.
It. And that's where memories of me being a whole series of adults started to play out in my mind. And I had no other stimulation, outward influences like movies or television. It was before television in the early 50s. I'd never gone to a movie, obviously. I couldn't get out of the house. So why was I having all these adult memories and things? So I'd always felt like an adult trapped in a baby's body. And so that experience, it was over. I could finally get up and walk a little bit with crutches by the time I was in kindergarten and things like that. And I did eventually grow out of it. But it turned me into a weird kid. And I'm still sort of just a weird kid. And in high school, when I started to read articles about the work that was going on at Harvard with Dr. Timothy Leary and Dr. Alpert, who later became Ram Dass, about this LSD thing. And even in high school in Nebraska, when I read about LSD in Time magazine or Look magazine or wherever it was I was reading it, I said, the second I get a chance, I'm going to take some of that stuff. That's for me. And the second I graduated from high school in 1966, I went straight back to California and enrolled in college at Orange Coast College. And I'd been a musician since I was 14, so I got a job at a singing like folk music in a saloon in Belmont Shore. And first night, on one of my first breaks, I go to the restroom and there's like a surfer guy in the restroom and said, "Would you like to buy some LSD?" And I said, "I sure would." You know, and I don't, you know, back then you didn't know what the dosage was or anything else, and it was in a capsule. It was that long ago. It was in a capsule, and I took that after my last set and drove 20 minutes back home to Costa Mesa with another musician friend, and we went to his apartment. He took some too. He went off into his bedroom and spent the rest of the night with Jesus. And I stayed in the living room watching it melt around me, and repeatedly picked myself totally apart and put myself back together. And I realized right then that consciousness was everything, and that understanding what consciousness was is the same thing as understanding what God is, and that the only thing truly worthwhile in life is to find out more about this and then utilize it to actually realize, to be that consciousness, that was all of our true identity. And so I was going to college. It was the psychedelic years, you know, 1966, 67. And so Eastern mysticism was a big thing. And I started to get into yoga and Buddhism. And I really resonated with Hindu mysticism too. And I continued systematically and very willfully and scientifically, I guess you'd say, experimenting with LSD for the next few years. But I knew that that was only to sort of hone my my skills, and that wasn't going to be how it was actually going to eventually have to work out for me. And I really fell in love with the Tao Te Ching, that, you know, that little tiny book. And I'd read it once, just completely frying on acid once. And I said, "Oh, I almost get it." Okay, this is something that you don't get intellectually, you know, you got to get it some other way. And so for years, I wanted to be a first class Eastern mystic. I wanted to be a yogi, and I wanted to be, I wanted to do it that way. I wanted to be a good meditator, and I tried to go at it from that direction. But it was like I was trying to play Eastern software on Western hardware. And besides, I found out that Eastern mysticism and meditation like that it was really hard, and I'm really lazy. And I figured, you know, I don't, you know, I got to come at this in another direction. So I tried to seek out something that was resident in the Western psyche that was comparable to the Eastern mysticism's Tao Te Ching. And I wasn't coming up with very much. The Christian mysticism still seemed encumbered with all of that Christian self-loathing, doubt, dualistic stuff. But eventually I ran into the Kabbalah and the Sefer Yetzirah. And I started to resonate with that. And at about the same time, my brother encouraged me to join the Rosicrucian Order Amorc, to take their lessons and to be active in their local lodge in Long Beach. And I joined the local lodge, became a lodge officer, and that's where I really discovered that I loved dressing up in robes and strutting around in the dark. Okay. And I said, now, okay, this is the kind of mysticism. I know Eastern mysticism, everything's inward. Well, this strutting around in the dark in robes, that's inward too, but you do it outwardly. And I get that. Okay. I can get behind that. And so it wasn't too long before I started to take the BOTA, the Builders of the Adytum, Tarot and Kabbalah Fundamentals correspondence course. And then I fell in love with the tarot. That was my gateway drug. I went to the B. Dalton's Pickwick bookstore and found an early edition of the Thoth Tarot, Crowley's Thoth Tarot. I'd heard about Crowley, or I'd read about him in footnotes of books that I'd read, but I didn't know much about him. And but I bought those tarot cards, and they totally freaked me out because they were just so beautiful and so powerful that I thought they had to be evil. These are just too good. Anything this disturbing and this powerful has to be evil. And then I read on a little occult dictionary about this Aleister Crowley. I pronounced it Crowley in those days. That he was a famous Scottish Satanist. Well, I'm fine with being a heretic, and I'm fine with being an atheist, and I'm fine with being all sorts of blasphemous stuff. But in those days, I feared what I thought Satanism was, and I certainly didn't want to be what it was that I thought that was. And so, but after a while, I got a copy of Crowley's Book of Thoth that goes with the cards. And I read that, and 99.99% of that went so far over my head, I couldn't grasp any of it. But that 1% of 1% that I did get proved to me that this guy knew, practiced, and had mastered absolutely everything that I wanted. And not only that, he made me laugh. And so I cautiously approached the study of Aleister Crowley, and I I wrote the email address. It wasn't email. There wasn't email in those days. I wrote the address on the promotional card of the Thoth Tarot, which was the OTO. And I imagined the Ordo Templi Orientis with that beautiful lamen and everything, and golden door and temple and Knights Templars walking around and strutting in formation. And I had no idea it was down to like 6 old people that knew Crowley, but I thought it was this big organization. And I wrote them and it took over a year of writing stupid letters to them back and forth before they finally wrote back and said, "We know nothing about you. You know, send us your full birth information. You know, we'll draw up your astrology chart to see if you're a freaking mass murderer." You know, and so I guess my horoscope showed that I was harmless enough, at least, you know. And they eventually set up time for me to travel up to Dublin, California, to be initiated. And they wouldn't tell me the address. I had to take a bus and get off at a motel, and they'd contact me. And it was so cloak and daggerish. It was like the opening scenes of the original Dracula, you know. The bus pulled up at dawn, and it was foggy up there in Northern California, and there was a motel there that it let me off, and it said Akency, you know, because the neon V had and I checked in, and the phone rang, and here finally around 9 o'clock in the morning, there's a knock at the motel door, and it's Phyllis Seckler. I didn't know who she was. At the time, she was Phyllis McMurtry. And she was the sweetest little sort of grandma type in a cloth coat and tennis shoes. And I opened the door, and I was so relieved that she wasn't some, you know, because I was afraid that I didn't know what I was getting into. I fantasized terrible that I was going to be raped and eaten, you know. But anyway, but I digress. That's how I joined the OTO. Okay, and that's when I discovered that there was only Phyllis, and then she was married to Grady McMurtry, and both of them old Crowley contemporary ninth degrees. And there was also Helen Parsons Smith, who was the widow of both Jack Parsons of Strange Angel fame and Wilfred Smith, the lodge master of Agape Lodge. And there was Mildred Burlingame, and she died before I had a chance to meet her. And that was it. And so the OTO more or less had to get itself resurrected as I believe it's the largest magical overtly magical society in the world at the moment. So, but that gave me the opportunity and the introduction to Israel Regardie, and all of the terrible things that people hear about Crowley, and all of the rumors and the baby eating and the goat killing, and I could ask people that knew and lived with Crowley. I could ask them, "What's this baby killing thing about?" You know, and they'd say, "Oh God, that's Crowley screwing with your head." Okay. Every time he ejaculated without making a woman pregnant, that was a baby sacrifice, you know. And then I was so lucky to be able to ask somebody and have them tell me straight out in so many words, you know, no. Crowley was a wild and crazy guy, but he wasn't that wild and crazy, you know, and he was never arrested for anything, let alone 120 baby sacrifices. So anyway, that's how I got into my formal magical training. And Phyllis then became my AA mentor for a number of years. And that's that. Did you want me
Wow.
to go that far?
Yeah, that was fantastic. It sounds like you really had contact with a lot of legends in that time. Was Robert Anton Wilson kind of a member of that group? Because I remember reading in some of his books from the 1970s, him hanging out with people like Grady McMurtry. Was he directly involved in the OTO at that time?
Not officially. He wasn't officially initiated. He never took his Minerval. But we hung around him, and he hung around us. And I had met him, oddly enough, here in Sacramento for the first time, where he was speaking at a thing called an infrasion, and that's where I also met Kenneth Anger for the first time. And the first annual Adam Weishaupt Illuminati Award that my OTO Lodge handed out was to Robert Anton Wilson. And no, actually, excuse me, it's the second one. The first one we presented to Timothy Leary. And
Wow.
As a matter of fact, after Leary died, Sotheby auction house in, I guess it's New York, we're auctioning off things from Leary's estate, and our award was listed in the catalog. And then later on, when I worked with Falcon Press, I helped edit Robert Bob's books, because they published both Leary and Wilson. So
Amazing.
yeah.
There's something about that time period with these just legends of consciousness exploration that were all alive and mingling together. And it seems like you had the opportunity to really like connect personally with a lot of them.
Yeah, I feel like Woody Allen had a movie called Zelig. I feel like Zelig was just a character that appeared in every major cultural, political, religious event of the whole 20th century. There's Zelig. There's pictures there with everybody. I've felt sort of like that because I've been super fortunate to truly, one accident after another has gotten to me in this position.
Do you think there's an aspect of like destiny or fate that's kind of involved in that?
It's hard to think otherwise because I'm so undeserving. So undeserving in any other capacity that it has to be some kind of either reward or penance.
Amazing. And I also wanted to ask you, because you've been on this journey as a magician for a very long time, and this is a fundamentals class. Is there anything that you wish that you knew at the beginning of your journey, some sort of wisdom that you could impart to just very beginner magicians who are just setting off now?
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, and it was easy. It was kind of easy for me. The thing I would suggest to somebody who feels drawn to the spiritual art form that is magic, that at any given point, remember to have fun with it. Okay, and I'm not doing that just for your mental health, or although that it helps that, I think. The playfulness of it is truly the god Pan bestowing its benediction on you. Okay, if it is not a form of joyous play, you're missing out on the full potential of what you're doing. And for me, that wasn't that hard of a thing. But so many take things so seriously. Not that it isn't the most deadly serious of all of any spiritual discipline. But if that's the focus, and you lose your sense of humor, you lose your sense of playfulness in it, you're short-circuiting yourself from the great, I guess you could call it the cosmic joke. And you're the more unnecessarily serious that you take it, you're setting yourself up for one blockage after another. So believe it or not, that's that. Secondly, I would recommend that even though your new interest in magic or witchcraft or this new spiritual disciplines that you're into, even though they are probably counter to how you may have been raised. Okay, if you might have been raised, say, a fundamentalist Christian, or you might have been raised Roman Catholic, or you might have been raised Orthodox Jew. And when you start to get into magic and hermetics and things like that, there's a tendency to say, "Oh no, now I'm against that," you know. And it's like you want to rub your parents' nose in the fact that you're now a witch, or that you're now a magician. Eventually, you're going to come to a place where you see that you could have theoretically get all of the insight, all of the illumination, all of the goodies that you're getting out of your new improved spiritual path. You could have plucked the central truth of what you're now embracing, even out of that thing that you're rebelling against. And are you familiar with the sacred magic of Abramelin the Mage? The book of Abramelin, it's called. Mm-hmm. And that's where the concept of the holy guardian angel and that formulaic thing that just completely turned the Golden Dawn on, and Crowley and this idea of the holy guardian angel and the lighting of the heart chakra and Tifereth, things like that. Abramelin, the mage, the legendary Egyptian mage that taught Abraham the Jew the sacred magic, told him right away, hey, whatever religion you're born in, don't deny it. You know, yeah, we're going to tell you a whole bunch of goodies and stuff like that. But hey, the religion you're born with, never throw it away. And I always thought, are you kidding me? You know, how could I be a Methodist, you know, Thelemite magician? You know, I don't think he really meant Methodist Thelemite magician. What he was really getting at is that everybody misunderstands what their religion is really about, okay? And you're just rejecting somebody else's misunderstanding of generic truth with a capital T. It's bad juju to reject truth in any form. So that's another thing I would recommend, even though it's very tempting to rub your people's noses in the fact that you're now practicing something that they would consider blasphemous and shocking and evil, maybe even. Don't. Give them a break. They don't understand what they don't understand what they think you're blaspheming in the first place. So
yeah, that's probably in a sense why sometimes Thelemites might have a bad name, is because it's a little bit too much of that sort of rebellious, almost it can come off, maybe people who are interested in Aleister Crowley can sometimes come off as being sort of disrespectful towards like Christianity and other things, and like rebellion against their parents. But you don't, need to be like that in order to be a Thelemite.
No, it's a waste of time, if nothing else. And yeah, even though Crowley said terrible things about Christianity, he was really talking about he took it personally because it traumatized him so much as a child. And so in a way, it was him doing that to his parents. And he was also, and also when magical formula change, when a magical age changes as a result of a significant step in human consciousness, the new formula is great. It's bright. It's a wonderful promise. And then within a very, very short time, it starts to degenerate. Okay, so we could use the example of let's say the actual historic character, the holy man that has turned into the Jesus myth, was this wonderful Gandhi-like character, more in common with what we'd think of as the Sufi ecstatic mystics, okay, or a Hindu pacifisty kind of holy man. And he's more or less announces this new formula that everybody is a him. Okay, we're all sons of God. Okay, we're all children of God. Simple message, but it was such a wonderful, profound message that was so counter to the decaying formula of animal sacrifice of the Judeo era. Okay. And the animal sacrifice was a step forward from the human sacrifice thing of the age before that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know that ages and aeons are a really central concept to Thelema. I was wondering if you could maybe explain a little bit about that and what it means, the new aeon that was brought forth by the Book of the Law.
Well, it wasn't brought forth by the Book of the Law. It happened on its own. Okay, but the Book of the Law was at least an announcement, in the same way as other kind of prophetic writings like Isaiah and things like that. It's pretty simple. All forms of religious worship is an attempt to harmonize with our understanding of existence, and in an attempt to do something to literally resonate on the same frequency as to what existence is. And you could say, so I want to do the will of God. Okay, you always hear this will of God thing. Well, that just simply means that, well, existence seems to be existing really fine on its own, but my life seems to be screwed and full of pain and mistakes, and I'm just such a terrible klutz. I need to get in better tune with the universe that otherwise is operating pretty effectively, and that's your attempt to do the will of God. Okay. So when you during the time when humanity as a group mind, I guess you would say, was so young and so primitive that we actually thought the sun came up and down. We thought the sun got born in the daytime. We thought that we're living on a flat earth. Sun comes up and goes down. Sun is born, sun dies. And even before that, we're so busy filling our own stomachs that we only half notice that, okay, we sleep when it's dark, try to eat when it's light, sleep when it's dark, try to eat when it's light. All we're thinking about is how to fill our bellies. Okay. And Crowley identified that primitive period where all we truly thought about was nourishment, in the same way an amoeba is only thinking about what's going to feed its amoeba-ness, as the age of Isis, who gives nourishment to her child. And that in order for us to spiritually harmonize with that primitive need for nourishment, everything that was a metaphor for that nourishment trip was sacred. And the easiest thing for us to see is we get nourishment directly from the earth here. The plants grow, we eat the plants. The animals come and eat the plants, we eat the animals. We sacrifice, we hunt the animals. Sometimes the animals kill us and we come home empty-handed, So we eat each other. It's a really simple formula. But the metaphor that most identifies, that we can identify with this earth thing, is woman. Just like the earth, women just bring forth people. And in that primitive time, we don't have a 9-month attention span. Okay, we just don't. For all obvious appearances, women just every once in a while swell up for 9 periods of the moon, and then they pop. And out comes another little human being. My God, she's a god. She's a goddess. She's the goddess of the earth. Okay. Can you see the magical formula of that time period of human consciousness? So all of the religious expressions, all of the ceremonies, all the ooga booga, all of the things, all tied up with lunar cycles, all tied up with blood in the moon, all tied up with the woman. And matriarchies then form because they're compatible with existence as we understand it. Okay, that would be the age of Isis. After a while, we do get a 9-month attention span. We do figure that it actually takes the introduction of the male sperm to make her pregnant. And about the same time, we realize that, hey, at certain times of the year, the sun's up there, for many hours during the daytime, and the plants really grow. And so they're starting to think, oh my God, the sun and the light and the heat of the sun's rays penetrating the earth is what makes the plants grow. The plants won't grow without the penetrating rays of the sun. And the woman doesn't give birth without the penetrating. Whoa, okay. Then all of a sudden, because we know a little bit more about the universe, that we know that it's a partnership between the sun and the moon, or sun and the earth. And the sun is just as important, okay? And then this concept of fatherhood then takes over. And at first, it's a nice partnership between the father and the mother. But after a while, the father gets crazy and the pendulum swings so far back that the patriarchal thing really takes, the pendulum swings with a vengeance. Not only that, but we still don't know why the sun comes up. We just know the sun's important. The sun gets born and the sun dies, and it freaks us out, and we get hung up on death. And then some smart priestcraft figures out, okay, if we tell everybody that we can do a couple of ceremonies to make sure the sun comes up every day, it won't take long before people will be afraid not to do the ceremonies. And we can charge tax deducted donations to make sure the sun goes up. And as long as they did it, the sun kept coming up and they kept raking it in. That's how a formula starts to degenerate. Okay. Now, and so that was the age of Osiris. It was a death cult. We had to overcome death. We had to magically overcome death. Human sacrifice was the way to do that now. Okay. And so that's the myth. You see it played out in the myth of Osiris. You see it played out in the myth of Jesus. Now we know, most people know, all over the planet, and have for a number of years, that the earth is round. It goes around like that. Sun stays on all the time. sun doesn't go out. So the sun doesn't die. We don't die. If we're conscious, like the sun is on all the time, somehow or other, what we think of as sleep, as what we think of as death, is just like passing into our own shadow periodically. And the real consciousness that we identify with now is the sun. And so that would be the magical formula of that realization is the age of Horus. And that is the only thing that distinguishes the magic of Thelema from the magic of medieval magic or the magic of Egyptian magic or anything. Egyptian magic is still great. Medieval magic is still great. Christian magic, Kabbalistic magic is still great. It's the magician now who has changed. And so the only unique thing about Thelemic magic or Crowley's magic is not so much the magic part. The uniqueness of it is the magician part. And now the magician identifies as a solar being instead of an earthly creature. Does that make any sense? Has my mic on?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you for clearing that up.
Okay.
And I know that Crowley did write a little bit about what you might call results magic, or, using magic to select or manifest certain outcomes. But it seems to me that the rituals and practices of Thelema are more so geared towards the solidification of consciousness within that new aeonic perspective. Would you say that that's the case?
I would say that I wished I had said that myself.
Okay, great. And so what is the holy guardian angel, and what is the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel, and how is this important and imperative to the solidification of that state of consciousness?
Because you really aren't who you are until you've integrated and completely identify with that level of consciousness represented by that vibratory frequency of consciousness. Hindus would say the heart chakra, raising your conscious identity to that of the heart chakra. There's this idea of the union of the microcosm and the macrocosm. The little world of us with the big world of the macrocosm. If you're familiar with the diagram of a tree of life, I don't know if I've got one handy here. Probably don't. Yeah, there's one. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Well, down here's at number 10 at the bottom there. You would, let me see if I can, there we go. Right there at the bottom, you could call that everyday consciousness, okay? And up here would be, maybe dream consciousness and everything else. But this whole area up here, these 6 sephiroth or emanations is actually what we would think of as the an awakeness comparable to well, let's see. in the same way that the Earth is a lower vibratory frequency than the sun is, we have a level of consciousness that is very familiar in holy writings to the illumination and the experience holy people of every generation, of every culture since the dawn of time. There are people that are walking around with a level of understanding that makes them seem almost godlike. Okay. A level of universal awareness that dwarfs in relationship to a person's everyday consciousness. Now, we're trying to think about all of these things as if they were occurring in space-time. But as soon as we get out of that number 10 in our level, in our consciousness expansion, we leave that space-time thing behind. We know that when we fall asleep and dream, that time does not exist in the same linear way as it appears to happen here. We are, each one of us, it's like we're in a dream that's inside another dream, that's inside another dream, that's inside a dream that if we actually were awake to that level, to that dream, we would actually capture the essence of actually who we are as an individual monad of consciousness. In other words, we'd be awake. So as we move from 10 to 9 to 8 to 7 to 6, as we raise our consciousness, if we use that tree of life as a map, it's simply waking up to who we are. And that who we are occurs at a vibratory frequency that we can only partially describe as the force, the actual force, like the magnetic force, like the electrical force, like the nuclear force. That level of consciousness actually exists within the force that we clumsily call love. And that's why these characters throughout all of history that everybody recognizes as, whoa, that person's awake. So many of them get to that state of awakeness and describe it as, I fell in love with God. Okay, I love God so much. And all of a sudden I felt God loving me so much. This idea that you could raise within yourself the same force the intensity to love an infinite ideal. But that's only half of it, because it's electrical. It's an alternating current. Okay. You can love the divine all you want. Okay. But if you're not open to receiving that exact same intensity of love ray back, you've short-circuited it. And so on a metaphoric level, you can see why any discussion of this matter, you start to talk in terms of romance. You start to talk in terms of love, of physical love, because physical love is just a reflection of this. Okay, but it's something we can understand and can compare it to. Knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel is when your love ray for the infinite God, whatever you want to call it, is matched by your openness to receive that same unobstructed ray back. Okay. And then it hits, just like when you hold a microphone up to a speaker and it squeaks, it feeds back. That love feedback is absolutely infinite. Instead of a squeal, it just gets sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. And that hitting that feedback is the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. And because magicians traditionally work with outward metaphors, your wand, it's a piece of wood, all right, but it's your will. Okay, it's okay, and the idea of the holy guardian angel is just like, well, I gotta pour this infinite concept into an image of some kind, so it's an angel, and it's okay, and it's an angel that is yearning to unite with me as much as I am yearning to unite with it. And that's something we can wrap our meat brains around as we contemplate these things, as we meditate upon these things. And the experience is when it actually occurs, when this feedback is triggered, it actually affects you physiologically. Okay. For a while you go a little God crazy. For a while, it feels like you're going to set fire to people when you touch them, and usually for a while people go, whoa, what happened to you? So from a magical point of view, technical magical point of view, you aren't who you are. You're not a magician yet until you and the angel are the same person. Because then it's the angel it's angel in you that's doing the magic. And it's the angel that says, no, that's wise. No, that's not wise. Don't do, you're being stupid there, and you go, oh God, I would have gone ahead and done that without your advice, So that's where the idea of the angel becomes your counselor. You don't know what is or is not in your own best interest unless you're vibrating at that frequency. So that's why Crowley says, the first magical goal is knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. Then your angel will tell you what to do. In other words, when you're firing on those cylinders, all of those cylinders, you know what's in your own best interest and what is not. Until then, you don't. So all your magic up until that point should be bent should be aimed at getting the holy guardian angel. From then on, you'll know what to do.
That's so beautifully explained. Thank you. And I think something that you're kind of emphasizing is that obviously there are technical procedures to achieving knowledge and conversation, like Liber Samek or the Abramelin ritual, but the emotional component and the aspiration, like the passion that the magician has towards reaching those levels of consciousness is really, really important, perhaps more important than the technical performance.
Yeah, the wonderful literature we have, Abramelin, Operation Liber Samek, etc., are really valuable to help you understand the formula, the structure of what's going on. I would probably wager that on planet Earth at any given moment, individuals who are functioning at that level and identifying at that level have never heard of Abramelin, have never heard of Liber Samek, and have gotten it some other way. But if we would examine what that other way was, we would see the major landmarks of the structure of what happened in the sequence of events that would match up pretty well with Liber Samek or the Abramelin operation. So,
I see. Could you also explain to us a little bit about the Book of the Law and who are the entities Nuit, Hadit, and Ra-Hoorquit, and how are these deities central to Thelemic magic?
well, I wouldn't call them entities. Number one, they're concepts. Okay. And they're concepts that absolutely nobody can argue with. They're concepts simply of the way things are, sort of personified as gods. And the easiest way to show how universal these concepts are is take them one at a time. The goddess Nuit. Now, if you let's see, there she is. Looks like a professional women's basketball player. Really, really tall gal. She's the arch of the night sky. As a matter of fact, she's the entire night sky, even under the earth. So she's not just like an omega there. She's the universe infinitely expanded. So everything, all the other stars, galaxies, everything else are within her. Okay, so that's one big mama. Okay, is everything is inside her. Everything is in her womb. You don't get any farther out than she is. And she's infinite out. And the only way we can wrap our meat brains around that is to just draw a circle and just try to say, okay, she's the circumference of a circle, of a expanded sphere we can't wrap our meat brains around. So, because her circumference is infinite, each point is an infinite outness. She is one big point that's infinitely expanded. That also means that she has, if she would have a center, the center would be everywhere. Does that Okay, I can almost wrap my meat brain around that. The center. Oh, and I saw a commercial for Nova on PBS that said, "The universe has no edge and has no center." And I went, that's Nuit and Hadit. Okay. So she's the infinite big, but because she's infinite, her bigness is everywhere. And so her center is infinitely small, and her center is everywhere. That's her lover, Hadit. Okay. It's hard to find Hadit in regular Egyptian mythology, but or iconography, but Hadit is that winged solar disk there in the stele. So if she's infinitely out and he's infinitely in, they're both infinitely touching, infinitely everywhere. And that infinite friction creates a nice vibration that is a vibrating everything in between. Infinite out, infinite in, and a vibrating everything in between. Oh, okay. And that's their child, Rahur Kuit. Okay. So I've got it on my, let's see here, on my pentacle. I've got Nuit and Hadid on the outside. And on the inside of the circle is their child, Rahur Kuit. Okay, an 11-sided figure, the field of operation for the entire universe to manifest. And so I've put the 4 trees of life for the 4 Kabbalistic worlds, all joined in a center together. That's my pentacle. So, but anyway.
So cool to see that.
So that's the 3 principles of the Book of the Law. So it's really not, they're not entities per se. You don't worship them as a, hey, Nuit, how are you doing? If you're going to worship Nuit, you have to worship Nuit as Hadit. So you have to really be a magician and not just a devotee, okay? To worship Nuit, you have to manifest Hadit. And Hadit, a manifested Hadit, worshiping a manifest Nuit, is the main officers of the Gnostic Mass. The Crowley's beautiful public ceremony of a Eucharistic ceremony where a priest and priestess consecrate the elements of wine and cakes, and then the people eat the cakes. But the cakes and the wine are the baby. They're Rahur Kuit. They're the child. But Nuit and Hadit have to join together. They in ecstasy, in the same way that physical lovemaking, there's that golden moment when you're not you anymore, you're everything. And, and so is she, you're not 2, you're 1, and then you're nothing, would it last forever, but the baby that they create is Rahur Kuit. And that's what is eaten as a Eucharist in a Gnostic Mass ceremony. And so when people were stupid enough to ask Crowley if he ate babies, he said, sure. Sure, we babysit Gnostic Mass all the time. And he figured everybody would get the joke, but they didn't. So
Thank you, Lon. I want to ask you one more question before we open it up for questions to the group. I was hoping that you could explain what it means in the famous statement, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will," because this seems to be something that's often misunderstood or misinterpreted.
well, there's only one official comment on the Book of the Law that Crowley wrote, and I'm only going to, it says, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. The study of this book is forbidden. It is wise to destroy this copy after first reading. Whoso disregards this does so at his own risk and peril. These are most dire. Those who discuss the contents of this book are to be shunned by all as centers of pestilence. All questions of the law are to be decided only by appeal to my writings, each for himself. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt. Love is the law, love under will." Now, Crowley has written several commentaries about that, so I'm not going to presume to interpret any passage of the Book of the Law for anybody else. But the phrase "do what thou wilt" was written in Rabelais' Gargantua and Pantagruel over the Abbey of Thelema in that famous Rabelais story. And so it's that phrase was bouncing around in Crowley's head, and anybody who's familiar with that book already. So, but he goes on to explain that the universe is operating just fine the way it is. And we are a reflection. The real us is are reflections of that perfectly operating universe. The perfectly operating universe is operating under the conditions that in the old days we'd say is the will of God. And we're a perfect reflection of that will of God. And if we really understood what our will was, if we really understood why we're here, we really understood why we came to all of the trouble to incarnate in this pain-racked flesh, it must mean we've got something to do that only we can do it, otherwise we wouldn't be here to do it. Our job is to find out what that thing is. Okay. Our job, our magic, is to discover and then execute the prime directive of our existence. That's do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Until you get to that point, it's a shall be. Okay. And that's really, when it comes right down to it, that's all you're here to do. To obey the big law, you gotta do what you're here to do. Okay. That's the whole thing. Everything else is a side trip. So you could look at it that way. Love is the law. Okay. Now it seems that he's describing the nature of that law. Okay. But it's really easy to misinterpret or misidentify love with, say, sentiment, or with tangled up in jealousy, and tangled up in all sorts of false ideas that we've associated with love. And when we're in doubt whether a thing is actually a function of love, we turn to the guidance of, is this my will? Love under will, okay. The nature of that is love. But if you slip into the state of mind where you're not sure, let the will part answer the question for you. Or you could look at it that way.
Yeah, thank you. So I'd love to open this conversation up now to the rest of the members of the group here. If anybody has any questions for Lon. Lon, thank you so much. This has been an amazing and very enlightening conversation. It's a real honor to have you here. And I'll hand the mic over to Sky if he wants to moderate the questions, if people want to raise their hands or type anything in the chat, and Sky will call you up to ask your question.
That was fascinating. I'm buzzing over here with everything that you said. I saw someone in the chat say this is connecting dots that I didn't know were supposed to connect, or something like that previously. And I feel the same way. I'm very, very grateful to have listened to you and your experience. And your humor was just so nice, and the playful attitude. I really liked, telling us to have fun, because that's why we're here. If it's not useful, if we're not having fun, we're not having a good time doing this, then I don't know, maybe we do need another conversation with our HGA, right? Angie, you got your hand up. I can't think of any questions right now, so you got the floor.
I feel like Angie has her hand up every week. But hi, Lon. Really good to meet you. I've been following your live streams on Facebook. And I have a few of your books, and this was your explanation of the HGA just was the best one I've heard. So thank you so much for your time today. I just want to say that. I'd really like to hear, if you would, your take on the 4 tenets of the magician, like to know, to will, to dare, to keep silent. Just like not necessarily what they mean, but what your thoughts on them, I guess. If that's okay. Thank you.
Oh yeah. On that tree of life, we've got 1, 2, and 3 at the top, and they're not really 1 and 2 and 3. They're just one thinking about itself. 2 is just a reflection of 1, and 3 is just the idea that there's a difference between the self of 1 and the not self of the reflection in 2. Okay, 1, 2, and 3, it's not even real yet. 1, 2, and 3 is just potentiality. It hasn't even broken into space-time. Okay, 4 actually breaks into dimensional thoughts, because so 4, I think Pythagoras even said it, 4 is really the first number 1, okay? So first of all, if lightning would strike me and I didn't say anything more about to know, to will, to dare, to keep silence, if all you heard me say was 4, that's what I'm saying, okay? 4 is the demiurgos. 4 is the God that thinks it's God, but it's not God, but it's about as close as to God that we can get and still wrap our meat brains in our dimensional idea of reality. Okay. And so 4 is going to give us now directions, north, south, east. Okay. It's going to give us the 4 directions, and that's going to place us in dimension. It's going to take that 3 of the supernal triad up there, 1, 2, and 3, serve as a base, and 4 is the point at the top, like a tetrahedron. Okay, and the 4 looks up and around and says, I must be number 1 because I don't see anybody else around here. Okay. The nature of that I must be number 1, I don't see anyone else, is broken up into to know, to will, to dare, and to keep silence. They're duties that go along with each of those now manifest 4s. And we can project that on the zodiac to the fixed signs of the zodiac, and we got those cherubic images. Okay. Crowley also has light, life, love, and liberty, the 4 L's that also go with the to know, to will, to dare, and to keep silence. Their duties, okay, and they are practical, in your face duties, in the same way as a cub reporter says who, what, when, why, where, and why. You know, every good story has, okay, every good action, every good quest, every good duty, every good ritual, every good action, every good thought. It's your duty to apply. Well, I gotta know about this. Okay. And you don't always do them in the same order or anything else. As a matter of fact, almost every time it's a different shuffle of which one you do first in any given situation. At least that's one way of looking at it. What are your thoughts?
I loved hearing that, because 4 is actually my lucky number. So thank you. That I love codes and patterns, and that was really cool. To me, I think the keep silent one is funny because I feel like it's interpreted differently by different people. Sometimes it's not talking to people about your practice, and sometimes it's knowing what to say rather than not what to say to people about it. And I'm really interested in hearing different people's perspectives on those 4 tenets.
Well, there's a sequence of a mystical practice, meditational practice, where you do a series of things. There's purifications, and then there's invocations, and then there's prayer, but there's always a period after you've done all of these positive things that you just wait. Okay, you wait for the reaction. And in that kind of a sequence, the keep silence is like, oh, God, I love you so much. Would you pour your blessings down on me? Please, please. And you inflame yourself with prayer. And then you go off and do something, expect it to happen. No, you get yourself all worked up, and then give yourself about 5 minutes of just shutting up and just letting it happen. Okay.
Like integration.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And I look forward to more live streams and wisdom from you. Thank you. I'll leave it there. I'll let someone else jump in.
I loved that explanation. Shona, you got your hand up. Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Hello. I feel a bit overwhelmed about asking a question, but I'm just gonna try and go for it and ask something about the HGA higher guardian angel concept, because the way you described it resonated with me too. It reminded me very much of how I was reading the accounts of like female mystics and saints from the medieval period, and how like they were sort of heretical in their time, and they would have like experiences that were like very almost like sensual, and like God spearing them with a fiery spear of into
Yeah.
their entrails and into their heart, and they have to receive the love and surrender to it, and then it takes out a part of them, and they're like sometimes left without a heart, but then they get it maybe without their ego, but then they get it back, and it's like then they left with the fiery heart of God. So they're
Right.
left becoming a god, and they write about this in their diaries and stuff. And I don't know, I just thought, I wonder if that is a link there. And that
Yeah.
was very interesting. Yeah, but
It was probably
yeah,
Saint Teresa.
yeah, of Avila.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, in my opinion, okay, I wasn't there,
Yeah.
but in my opinion, that is a textbook holy guardian angel marriage. Okay,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was a marriage. It was overtly, you can't escape the obvious fact that it was sexual
Yes.
on
Definitely.
steroids. It was,
Exactly. It was like psychedelic, erotic, like she was, out of her mind, but like she was achieving, the kind of existence and state of consciousness that a lot of women in that period were not able to in other domains. But like it was yeah, it's fascinating. And I do think it was a union between her holy and guardian angel that was, yeah, a marriage. So that's interesting hearing you saying that. But I just wanted to know what you think about in contacting or achieving like a trying to understand that part of yourself or that entity that is everything in the universe and in consciousness, which is the universe and you and everything. Would you have to do the Abramelin rituals? Because I know that it is, I know because you said you are a lazy person and doesn't like over definition, systematic stuff that is rigorous to the extreme. And that ritual is very extreme and not plausible for a lot of people. And I'm kind of the same in a way, but also, yeah, I'm just wondering if what you feel about that and what you would recommend instead, or any thoughts.
it's great to be familiar with the text.
Yes, definitely. Which, yeah, we have been in this course, which is great.
Because it lays out a formula, but it lays out a formula that was deemed necessary for a 40-year-old man in 1413. A 40-year-old German man in 1413 or whatever year it was, okay, who probably needed very severely to be totally physically whipped into allowing himself to be open to devotional type work. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
it's I think any of us today can get ourselves worked into a devotional frenzy in our own ways. Okay, the whole thing is to work yourself into a state of mind where you're falling hopelessly, helplessly, gaga, insanely, mindlessly in love with God.
Hmm.
And
It's beautiful.
there are dancers who can dance themselves into that.
Absolutely.
I don't think Abraham of Worms, in 13 was going to be able to dance himself into that ecstatic thing. But plenty of people are, or any other ecstatic practices that get you to connect with the object of your devotion and allows you the freedom of self-consciousness in order for you to open yourself up to receive it back.
Yeah, which
And
I think is the hardest part, because the vulnerability and the fear, but it's the essential part.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way street, and sometimes in meditation you can feel that you've reached out and touched what you need to touch, and when it starts to touch you back, it freaks you out at first.
Yeah.
Okay? Because like Saint Teresa, okay, you're totally vulnerable. You're afraid that spear is going to rip what you think is your heart out.
Yeah, but then that torture turned to ecstasy in a matter of minutes.
Right, and the heart that you receive, the flaming heart that you receive, is really your own heart.
Yes. Yeah.
So
well, it became that. Okay, no, that is kind of that's wonderful. Thank you. That's very illuminating. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
What a great question, Shauna. Thanks for asking that and bringing that into the class. Jake, you had your hand up. You want to throw another question in here?
Sure. And I don't want to take up too much time from the rest of the class, but you've defined yourself, Lon, as like a lazy person, and yet having been familiar with the thelemic system of initiation, it's quite a lot of work. It's a lot. And so I was wondering if you had any advice for somebody who's undertaking that traditional path of initiation, who might feel like overwhelmed or intimidated by it, how they can manage that and how they can better apply themselves to the system.
Well, there are tons of practices that you might feel that you're obliged to do, and you don't know why you're doing them. For years, I really didn't know why I was doing even pentagram rituals. It didn't dawn on me, what the simplicity of why I was doing it. Don't be afraid to I don't want to say abandon, but even if you think that you don't understand why you're doing a bunch of things, but it seems like a tradition or something, or a magician that you respect, encourages you to do something. Don't think that anything that you do is a waste of time. nothing you do with the idea that you're doing magic, don't think it is, or later you'll think it was a waste of time. It's all worth it. And keeping that in mind, don't be afraid to stop doing stuff, okay? But don't expect instant results from any of it. Okay, you might find that you do a few things and there a few phenomena happen and kind of spooky things and synchronicities blow your mind. Don't pay those too much attention. Okay, everything you do has its purpose. People ask me sometimes, well, you know, if you're such a great magician, why aren't you rich? And which is a good question. It's a fair question, but you have to realize how poor I could really be compared to what I could be. I am rich. Okay. I got a roof over my head. You know, I am such a lazy bum that I'm sure I deserve much. I'm very lucky. Okay, I'm the richest person in the world, even though I'm broke. Okay, magic is very, very strange, and I haven't wasted a minute, a second of my time. And if I don't see exactly why that is, actually, I'm too lazy to care. So,
Thank you. I'm going to remember that next time I don't feel rich. I'll just think about how poor I could be, and that should help.
yeah.
That is sound advice, Lon. Thank you. You're becoming one of my heroes tonight, especially on the lazy front, because I'm always find like that's kind of why I got into magic, was to make things easier, and it seems to have really complicated things so far. So I must be doing something right.
Yeah.
I had a question, maybe really quick, and I do see, Rachel, you have your hand up. I wanted to touch back onto something that I've experienced in my magical practice when I've had mystical experience, is that doorway into the next incarnation, and the focus on how we cultivate the awareness to walk from this life into the next one, or walk from this state into the next, into our dreaming state and then back, or walking through those layers of the dream that you say. And I know that this is like a really, really big question, but I just felt compelled to ask because I have you here and I'm vibing.
Well, I don't have much of an answer for you. I'll be 75 in July, and when you get this old, you think about that stuff. You start thinking about that stuff a lot, and I'm pretty much resigned to in that respect, to taking things as they come. I sort of have developed the attitude that because time doesn't exist the way we think it does, that in a sense, we've only got one incarnation. And all of the experiences that we might look upon as the experiences of previous incarnations and the experiences of future incarnations, in a sense, are all happening right now. And that our behavior, our decisions, our changes that we affect within ourselves right now, we know for a fact that our behavior right now affects what's going to happen in the future. It can't affect what's going to happen in the future without also simultaneously affecting what's happened in the past. That's how the time thing, that level of consciousness works. Okay. So I'm less worried about, what I'm going to be in the next incarnation, because I'm really not sure that my next incarnation won't be my one of my past incarnations that I'm in the process of changing. In the Goofy movie, it's a goofy movie, but it's such a Buddhist movie, I can't believe it. Groundhog Day. Have you seen Bill Murray's Groundhog Day?
Yes.
How he comes back and repeats the same day over and over and over again, and finally wises up and uses each day to grow, to evolve, to improve himself, to awaken finally. It's sort of like that. And that if I'm going to affect the conditions of what from this point of view would be considered the next incarnation, I'm already preparing myself. I'm already setting the stage. I'm already putting together what's going to happen, and the best way I can prepare for it is just to do the best I can to improve my nowness, because by improving my nowness, I'm fixing my past and setting the stage for a better future.
That might be some of the best advice that I've ever heard. And just for frame context, some of these experiences were near-death experiences that I didn't know where I was or if I had a body or how I was going to get back. And then I awakened again in the same form and was super confused. And so then started to search out, hey, like these kind of things. And I think it really has landed on that for me, is like just doing the best I can right now means that whatever comes next is going to be great.
It's going to be right. Yeah.
It's going to be right. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. Rachel, you have your hand up. You want to ask a question?
Yes. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Love is the law. Love under will.
Hey. So I've been a longtime follower of yours, like Angie. I've been watching on Facebook as well in the mornings. And I knew that you were going to be here this week, and I thought, what could I possibly have to ask Lon Milo Duquette? And since I have so many questions, I actually have no questions, but I decided to ask your book of low magic, where you close your eyes and open a page. What would I ask Lon Milo Duquette? What did it tell me? It told me, you hold the universe in your hand when you pick up a deck of tarot cards. So I did. I actually did that. It was great. So I put my wand on the cards and I said the tarot invocation that I say to these tarot cards. Now, mind you, I'm still getting used to this particular deck. So I asked the spirits that reside over the tarot deck to give me an oracle on what should I ask Lon Milo Duquette. And it gave me these 3 cards, which I thought were very fitting. Look at that.
Whoa, my pentacle. Ace of discs.
And
oh, the Empress.
how about that? And then there's Angie's 4. 4 of Wands right there.
Huh.
How about that?
Three of my favorite cards.
So that's my question to you is what do you have to say about that, Lon?
Well, the ace of discs there is like the foundation of your material life, and just like the pentacle, is the thing you stand on to do your magic. Okay. And the pentacle, especially the mine, is supposed to be a diagram that describes absolutely everything that you understand the universe to be. So it's your world. That's why you stand on it. So the very first thing a magician does is to at least temporarily say, this is what I think the universe is, and this is the universe I think I'm going to start to work in. Okay, because you're never sure, but you got to start somewhere, and that's that ace of discs. So it's the foundation that you stand upon. So you got your foundation, and what is standing on that, what is throned on that, is that throne of the Empress, which is Venus and love. Okay, so
Wow.
So the little cliche message is that you build the foundation of your magic on the concept of love. Okay. and the Empress stands in front of that gate to a garden, that beautiful garden, and she's at that gate, and the gate is a door, and the Hebrew letter that's associated with that card is Daleth, and Daleth means the doorway. Okay, so standing on your foundation of love, it's a doorway. Okay, it's a doorway of love, if you will, and beauty. So when in doubt about what love is, just go for the beauty thing. Love follows just automatically. And the 4 of your 4 of and Daleth, of course, is the Hebrew letter that means 4.
How about that?
Yeah. Okay, it's the letter Daleth, the number 4, and then you've got the 4 wands. Okay, And so what is the door, your door leading to? It is the job, the duty, the quest to perfect your work. And it's not so much the work of your doesn't have to be your your job or anything like that, but because it's wands, it's your great work. Okay, and it's done in a balanced way, and in a sense, those four wands make another door too.
Wow.
Okay, and so the magic numbers associated with the whole thing are 4. I guess if I was going to give you a fortune cookie with just a number on it, I'd say, hey, 4.
That's great. I thought that all 3 of these cards just were so it just made so much sense after so much synchrony, things that you talk about all the time. And just for this particular moment in time, it just was the right thing. So thank you so much I really appreciate all your words. And
Oh, thank you. Thanks for pulling good cards.
yeah.
I hate it when I have to put a good spin on bad cards.
Got a lot of good mojo, a lot of good intentions. So yeah, thank you so much again.
You're welcome.
That was so cool. I'm really happy that I got to witness that. We've got a few more minutes with Lon Milo Duquette here if anybody wants to ask another question. I wanted to ask you, Lon, so I got to get on these live streams. Can you tell me a bit about that? And where else to find you and how to connect?
It seems like I'm everywhere. But I'm sure I'm not. The live streams, when the pandemic started and everybody was locked down, I on my Facebook page, I said, hey, would anybody watch if at 10 o'clock every morning I did a little 15-minute show of some kind, read excerpts from my books or something? And I got a good response. So I every day at 10 o'clock Pacific time, I started to do a little live thing on my Facebook page. And I do it, I've done it 7 days a week. Month after month since the pandemic. I guess I'm well into this, well over 2 years of doing it. And some kind Facebook friend also archives them on YouTube every day. So and they remain on my page forever, my Facebook page, but they're also on YouTube. And so you can see them there. And it's something that even now that the lockdown is opening up a little bit, I still do it every day. I can't, I'm stuck, I'm hooked. I'm hooked on doing it every day. And so I have a lot of fun with it. And it keeps me in touch. I've had to, for 40 some years, we did hosted a weekly class, magic class in our home. And we had to move after 22 years in the same location. We had to move to another city. And then right in the middle of the pandemic. And so I haven't been able to do my Monday night magic class. And Constance and I just loved it because we'd serve tea and we'd have a combination of regulars, and every week be between 12 and 25 people. And it sort of kept us sane and amused. And so the daily readings on Facebook are an attempt to keep going, keep something like that going again.
Cool. I can't wait to watch those. Well, we have a couple more minutes. Is there like a final burning question or a share or anything from anybody in the group? Solanus has his hand up. All right. Do you have time for 2 more questions, Lon, from Solanus and George?
I think I do, sure.
Okay.
Hi, Lon. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. I've been having all sorts of great emotions from hearing your wisdom, and I sincerely appreciate it. So I had a question of, as a starting magician, if you had your favorite resources you would recommend, or something that would help along the path of becoming a better magician. Perhaps, I don't know, something like 4 books or something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because when I started sort of serious study, there weren't very many Crowley books out there. They weren't published. Crowley wasn't a big star in those days, and so I had to shop around for Crowley type books. But I really got the most practical information out of books that weren't directly magically ceremonial magic books, but that well, one of them kind of was 2 in particular: The Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. Okay. Was very, very influential. Not so much, directly related to magic, but the fact that I was eavesdropping and being informed and being educated by a true holy man. Okay. As if, what would I like to grow into, with my magic, what kind of generic thing would I like to grow into? So Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi, not to give up reading anything else because it's very entertaining. Makes you hungry too. He remembers every meal he ever ate. And I had things like Manly Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages, which is like a buffet of the Western magical and mystery traditions. And it gives you just enough information and background to let you know what's out there and what was important to the study of modern Hermetics. So it's a little bit of Egyptian, a little bit of Rosicrucian, and a little bit of other esoteric religions and stuff. So I would not be afraid of literature that isn't directly related to what you're studying. And if you want a nice little background of Kabbalah, how it might relate to tarot cards, the Paul Foster Case tarot, let's see, I think it's Tarot, the Wisdom of the Ages or something like that. But it's just a very generic Paul Foster Case book on the tarot. Because I wouldn't have understood Crowley's Book of Thoth having not read Paul Case's book ahead of time. I sort of knew what Crowley was after. So I would do something like that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And of course, Duquette.
Sure.
Duquette books are always, you don't even have to read them. Hello there. Hi, George.
George.
Hi.
Yeah,
Hi.
George.
Oh man, this was beautiful. I really enjoy your disposition and your wisdom there. So I got a few questions roaming around. I guess what I really want to ask is, you've had, 50 years or so to boil the cauldron down and get to the meat of your practice. So I'm really curious what is, some of the bells and whistles you cut out, and what are the elements of your daily practice or your magical practice that you don't do without?
We do the very basic generic. I don't get up and do pentagram rituals and things like that unless I've actually preliminary to an actual other kind of magical an invocation or an emergency thing of some kind. But that's not because that there comes a time, and surprisingly, it comes sometimes pretty fast, when you realize that everything that you've consciously done during the day has been a magical act.
Mm.
And it has been a ritual that you've either done well or you've done poorly. And once that seeps in, you'll see how certain things are purifications, banishings, invocations, or exorcisms. But I don't know if I would be seeing things that way had I not for years done purifications, banishings, invocations, and exorcisms. If that makes sense to you.
Absolutely.
So daily practices are, I'm lucky if I do resh on time. We do
Sure.
will before we eat and things like that. But the greater rituals, the important rituals, have quite a long time ago ceased to be recognizable as textbook rituals. The closest I get to them, textbook things, is when I open up to do Enochian work, or when things get so bad I have to do a Goetic evocation. Then I pull out the stops and get out the clothes.
Right.
Yeah. But as a daily routine, my daily routine has become my daily routine. Chop wood, carry water.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And my wife does most of the wood chopping and water.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, and if I could slide in another one, if you're willing to expand on this, I'm just curious about a maybe a ritual psychedelic meditation or psychedelic experience that really stands out to you from back in the day. Maybe a snippet of something.
Yeah, I mentioned it. I mentioned it earlier. Most of my psychedelic experiences made reading a text a little difficult. Okay, because what I was reading with was I'd get so hung up on visuals and things like that. But the Tao Te Ching was probably the most profound psychedelic meditation that I did in a formal way. And also, I had a copy of Timothy Leary's Psychedelic Prayers, which were, for the most part, it was handy. It was one of the few things out there, and it was very, very helpful. But the idea of the place that especially my earliest psychedelic experiences took me weren't, I don't want to say they were so high, but for me they were so high, bordering on the disillusion of duality, and so the opening lines of the Tao Te Ching, just the first couple lines about the nameless and the named, and the difference between literally how describing how a singularity devolves into duality and then multiplicity in about 15 words. Okay, it was enough for me to hold in my easily distracted brain for me to actually grasp that. And so other than that, I can't think of any piece of literature. Lots of music, however, carried me places.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You bet. What's that around your neck there?
This piece?
Yeah, that's.
I have the Flower of Life and a arrowhead with turquoise.
Oh,
here.
cool.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's about all the time we have today. Thank you again so much, Lon Milo Duquette. This is such an amazing opportunity to be able to talk to you, and this was a really fun and enlightening and inspiring conversation. And I'll be getting this last week's coursework posted up tonight for all of you, and I'll also get this recording posted as soon as I can, hopefully by the end of the night, my time as well. And wow, next week is the last week, so please be on time so we can cherish the small amount of time that we have together. And I'll see you then. Thank you so much, Lon. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right, so there you have it. That's a little preview, a sneak peek at what goes on in the Magick 101 course. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation with the great Lon Milo Duquette. And if you're interested in hearing more lectures, presentations, and conversations with great minds of magic and occultism, including Mitch Horowitz, Gabriella Herstick, Mickey Pellerano, Pam Grossman, Carl Abrahamson, and a whole host of other incredible authors, teachers, and practitioners of magic, then I really invite you to sign up for the Magick 101 course. So please go to magick101course.com, where you'll be able to find all of the information about the course. You can click on the link to register there, and there are payment plans available for everybody. So even if you're somebody who's experiencing a bit of financial difficulty, which we all go through at some point, and there's no shame in that, I have payment plans available to make it affordable and accessible for you, so that you can learn these life-changing skills and you can create the life that you really want for yourself. So thanks again for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.